Don't let me find you out here again.
We're trying to help you.
I don't need help.
Not my diagnosis.
What gives you the right? What's the difference between you and me?
I'm not wearing hockey pads.
Such a shame. Look how sad our poor boy is there. Just look at him. But is Batman right? Is the difference between him and Brian over there looking all sad? Is the difference only wearing hockey pads? What if he wasn't? What if we even the playing field? Even just a little bit. This one's for you, Brian. Now, he didn't get anything in the way of special combat training, so we're going to be problem solving in a bit of an unorthodox fashion. Today, we're going to be asking and answering the question, can you beat Batman Arkham Asylum with gadgets only? Now to the rules of the run. Batman can get 8 gadgets that he can use throughout the asylum. For crushing skulls and dreams alike, we'll be using Bruce Wayne's wallet. If he bought it, we can use it. He certainly likes to get his hands dirty though, and our boy Brian isn't well suited to it, so we won't be throwing any punches if we don't have to. This also includes kicks, knees, and generally anything that can be described as an unarmed strike. And certainly not anything described as a takedown. While technically this would allow for the use of his cape, I decided against it. It felt maybe too close to just smacking somebody. This does mean though that we can't use the counter, since Bats likes to counter things pretty violently, so that's out. Anytime we accidentally violate the rules, I'll be reloading to the last checkpoint. Fair's fair. And I know what you might be thinking, why don't you just unbind the buttons you don't want to use? And that's a fair question. And an even better idea. The answer? I did. Or at least I tried to. The PC version of the game comes with a medley of bugs, but we'll get to that later. We start off by bringing the Joker in, and of course, because this is a video game, everything goes smoothly and we get to leave unharmed, right?
Hey, Sharpie. Love what you've done with the place.
Multiple prohibited items.
I want Joker searched again.
It's not the patient. It's...
Ooh, would you sneak in with your bats? Come on, tell me. Batarangs, bat claws, ooh, bat smacks.
Yeah, but they're mine, hands off.
Open the gate. Get him out of there.
Tick-tock.
Weird move by Rocksteady to have the Joker reference an app that wouldn't be out until another 7 years after this game released.
Joker's loose. Alert the warden.
Well, shit. Who could have possibly seen this coming? And it's fine. We're playing as Batman, the Gadget Man himself, so we can just use... Why do we only have batarangs? As far as I can tell, they can't knock anybody out. And we can't leave without knocking out 2 waves of these guys, so we... Oh! Will you look at that? In that case, we just need to line these guys up and knock them down. Easy peasy. Now we proceed onward and... Oh. There's no electricity in here. And there aren't any gaps to knock these guys into. And the doors won't open as long as these guys are aggroed. It looks like their aggro works differently from normal enemies too. Instead of investigating with the game's usual stealth mechanics, they come out swinging. I hate to say it, but that's it. The run's dead, and Room 2 killed it. But what if it didn't? If you've read the title, and you're familiar with the speedrunning community, then you might know of a category called New Game Minus. While the other games in the Arkham series got a New Game Plus that lets you bring your gadgets and upgrades with you into a replay of the story, this one just never got that. The moderators of the community thought it would be fun to optimize around having them from the get-go. So Brian, we're going to change things up just a little bit. We're going to fight like a rich kid. And rich kids don't fight fair. Oh yeah. Now we're ready. While we have a whole tool belt to work with, only a few of them have any real application in combat, but the explosive gel is what makes this run possible at all. It actually damages enemies, and after a whole lot of blasting, those two don't know what hit them. It was explosives. They were hit with explosives. Listen, I literally just explained that we're pressing on. We leave an inmate to his fate because rescuing him from his precarious situation results in us immediately punching him. We can't have that. We managed to find Joker, who promptly releases a test subject on us. This guy looks tough, and I panicked a little bit, but we just gotta wait it out until his body gives out on him. And the fight's over. Now, it turns out one of the guards is in on the whole thing and is taking Commissioner Gordon as a captive. We begin to track him down via a trail of alcohol that's being suspended in the air somehow. After having an elevator thrown at us, we get hit with bugs. And we get hit hard. For whatever reason, the ability to shimmy along edges only works sometimes. The only way to fix it is to restart the game and use keyboard and mouse controls. I tried for a while, and even tried out some speedrunning tactics to push through, but I'm not very good at games, and eventually gave in. I grew up on a controller, and try as I might, the keyboard becomes an alien concept to me as soon as you introduce it to an action game. I ended up having to use it near the end of the game, so restarts were pretty common, and I become pretty useless in a fight. Damn you, buttons! We finally catch up, only to find him dead. Guess the poor guy chose the wrong side of justice! While trying to speed things along, I end up trying to counter the Riddler monologuing at me, and that's a reset. I escape into the outer parts of the asylum, and it's very green. I'm told there are people breaking one of the most expensive gadgets I'll be using this run, and retrieve my explosive gel from the Batmobile.
There's a supply of explosive gel in the trunk of the Batmobile.
Batman then reads the mind of his eye-in-the-sky Oracle.
Barbara gave it to him. There's no way he'd leave it.
There's no way he'd leave it.
We then immediately begin questioning how Gordon could afford to leave such a long trail of tobacco for us to follow, how he could fit it on his person to begin with, and how nobody escorting him noticed him doing it. We continued to follow until we found him being held by Harley Quinn, watched her flip out of existence, then give up on that route immediately upon experiencing a minor inconvenience. Heading in through the roof, we got busy showing off the peak of competence of my opponents before blatantly ignoring the concepts of physics. From there, we saved some extremely agreeable doctors.
You're going to be okay here.
We'll be fine.
Only to find out that we needed to help even more doctors. You'd think this was a hospital or something.
Batman!
Don't speak. You're safe now.
But it's a trap!
I know. Just not for me.
We find a doctor who talks to us and says that we walked into a trap. Quickly reenacting every "I'm not trapped in here with you, you're trapped in here with me" scene from every film, show, book, and game ever.
I'm sorry. I tried to tell you. I couldn't speak.
He then lies to our face. Afterwards, we murder a man in cold blood. He may not have fallen all that far, but the Joker's laughing gas has killed countless people, and that man is one of them. We're briefly introduced to a new enemy type that uses knives. They can't be countered, which is supposed to make them more dangerous, but we're not doing that anyway. As it turns out, they have no natural immunity to being blown up, so they go down just the same as any other foe. The game then introduces the name Dr. Crane, also known as Scarecrow, a scientist-turned-villain who delights in causing fear through various chemicals and instill nightmarish illusions. Almost immediately, we find the Commissioner dead. No, really, guys, he's dead now. He's gone forever. While looking around the morgue, we look through some body bags for some reason to see some really spooky visions, all culminating in the unthinkable. A masked man who goes boo! We're thrust into a nightmare world where the Scarecrow is king, and as cool as this part of the game is thematically, I can't help but wonder what's going on. All the prisoners you see affected by the toxin are still conscious and moving, so what's Batman doing right now? Where is he, and how does this correlate to the real world? Oh no, though, it's over pretty quickly. Oh, good. Gordon's fine. It was just some other person that was violently murdered. Had me worry there for a minute. We get into a mandatory stealth section, and I can't do stealth takedowns. My only means of combat up until this point have been pulling or pushing enemies into hazards or blowing them up. 2 of them leave the victim screaming, and the 3rd is a literal blast. If I make any noise, they alert Harley, and Gordon will be shot to death. I have to do this without making a peep, so how do we get past this? As it turns out, everyone except Harley is optional here. Everyone in the room has guns, which makes them dangerous in a fight, but I have no interest in fighting them anyway. We skip everyone and make our way to her, and after a quick blast, that doesn't count. We save Gordon and find out that one of the doctors has been draining the villain Bane of venom, a super steroid that he has running through his veins. He's pumped back up by the Joker, and we're thrown into a fight that we can't win. Sure, we can hurt him, but it doesn't mean anything if we can't break past his health thresholds. Trying out gadget after gadget, I found that he's immune to all of them. The only way I could stop him from regenerating his health is to fail the run. I'm sorry, Brian. I've got bad news for you regarding your future in heroics. But, Brian?
Tell them your name.
Brian.
No, Brian. Don't tell them your name, Brian.
Batman?
No.
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 No. Then why do you dress up like him?
He's a symbol. We don't have to be afraid of scum like you.
No, you're right. I should press on. There's got to be more to find out. Even if we can't stop Bane, what are the odds we'll have to fight someone like him again? And while some hands had to be thrown, it was at least a gadget that did the final blow. And if you're honestly looking at me and telling me that the Batmobile doesn't count, then I ask you this. If this is a gadget, and this is a different gadget as far as the game is concerned, then how is this not a gadget? I rest my case. We send Gordon off to safety, and carry on our lonesome. We find out that Batman built an entire Batcave on the island, tricked out with high-tech security and the whole shebang. He did this all just in case. Why the hell did he only bring Batarangs? It turns out the scientist draining Bane of his venom made an even more super steroid called Titan. A super duper steroid, if you will. Batman concludes the Joker's plan is to make an army of Banes. Oh. No. No! Brian! We've got to put a stop to this. Don't worry, buddy. We'll fix this! We now officially have the Batclaw, which is a glorified rope that we've been using to pull the enemies around. We immediately use it to throw classified records into the abyss, because those probably weren't important. One more for the road. I don't really have anything to say about this clip. I just really enjoyed this encounter. The AI can sometimes avoid your gadgets, but the dodge animation is a bit longer than the throw animation, so you can just sort of spam it to hit them. It also seems like if one of the enemies is grabbed by the rope, all of its targets usually will. Some enemies are faster, but if you can hit them with a Batarang, they can't really do much about the Batclaw. Why is all of his stuff labeled as Bat? Is he worried that someone is going to take it if it's not labeled? Like how he didn't label his parents, and now on the trail of the good doctor and her notes on Titan, we're introduced to a new feature called a suicide caller. When an enemy goes down, they start making a lot of noise, which makes stealth a lot harder. Or for us, it really doesn't change anything. It's weird how much of the game you can ignore when you brute force it with gadgets. We find the most reasonable guy in the asylum. The poor guy looks like he's already given up. I might have been able to just walk past him and leave, but I've blown up so many people already. I don't know. In retrospect, I feel kind of bad for him. In an effort to save some hostages from the Joker, we drop a chandelier through a massive section of glass and steel, only a couple feet away from where they're being held. You know, as one does. We destroy some of the Doctor's notes, but that doesn't count for much in the grand scheme of things.
It's never this simple.
We find that it's raining inside. That's hardly ever a good sign. We kick the world's lightest sentient trash cans to numb the pain of the world's longest hallway. I know it's to set the mood, but we can't all be Snake Eater. Bruce shows us again how wealthy he always was. Who buys a suit for an 8-year-old? He's gonna outgrow it in 5 minutes. To make matters worse, he immediately goes on to continue to show off. He goes from a small, helpless child into flexing into a wall of muscle in an instant. The rest of us have to work out, but the rich get to just... Oh, Scarecrow's back. I guess we're doing this again. There's some combat this time in the form of skeletons. Again, neat thematically, but not particularly long or difficult. We wake up at the top of a bell tower, and seriously, how the hell did we get up here? Instead of a new enemy, we're introduced to a new weapon. Stun batons. Yeah, also doesn't protect from explosions. But what does anymore? We catch up to Dr. Young, who's had a change of heart since helping a madman kill a lot of people. Better late than never, I guess. We save her from a serial killer, and she agrees to help stop what she's created. She goes to get some codes to do so when...
Oh my god!
Get out of the way!
Well, if this run has taught me anything, it's that explosions are good for knocking people unconscious. She's probably going to be asleep for a little bit, and I'm kind of in a hurry. We carry on our way when... the game crashed. It's been doing that a lot. If I don't restart it every so often, the frame rate dies, and it seems like it crashes more frequently when it's running for longer periods of time. It could just be a bad memory, but I swear it didn't have these issues on the console versions of the game. Before she was permanently knocked out, she let me know to look under the garden area of the asylum. And what medical facility has these kind of accommodations? The hospital in my hometown can't even serve edible food, and these guys get their own garden? Because plot, we can't hack into the security grids. It's entirely impossible, unless of course we could get our hands on a MacGuffin. I mean a cryptographic sequencer. The warden has half of what we need, so I guess it's time to finally pay attention to the fact that he was kidnapped at the literal start of the game. We find what looks like the single most unethical room in any hospital in the world. They seem to flip back and forth. They handle the Joker gently, but they put tons upon tons of these guys into tiny cells with each other surrounded by floors that will shock them into unconsciousness, and then keep pumping them full of electricity until... When does it deactivate? It doesn't! Yeah, that's fine, I guess. Nothing wrong with that, huh, Rocksteady? Poison Ivy is freed from her cell before we're confronted by the most terrifying sight in this whole run. We'll get to that. The warden hands us our MacGuffin, and... it begins. For a little bit, I thought I was just being bad at games or doing something wrong. After extensive testing, it turns out that these codes are also extremely broken on controller. You literally just need to point the sticks in the correct direction, but it's like the answers were removed from the sheet on a multiple choice. One analog stick did almost nothing, and the other one would skip right over the green. I could move it a single millimeter, and it would go from too far in one direction to too far in the other. I was livid. This is basically the tutorial for these, and I spent 3 minutes and 24 seconds on this one single panel at the lowest difficulty available. But it's fine, there's no way they'd have more than one of these, right? Right? After making our way out, we get a surprise! Before receiving a double dare, and I'm not taking that lying down.
You need a hand back?
No, I've got gadgets.
Little hint, boys! Keep away from the fist!
That's a terrible hint. You haven't been paying attention, have you? We do nothing to stop her escape, leading to us having to chase her down again. To reach her, we're faced with... Damn it! This room. This fucking room. I spent 3 minutes and 3 seconds on the first sequencer puzzle. I'm then given a 2-minute time limit in which I have to hack 3 more! It got so bad that I ended up switching to PC controls because that was not happening otherwise. I guess I've been overusing my gadgets, and this one in particular is protesting. I accidentally try to counter the absurdity of this situation and reset. I then throw my cape in frustration and reset again. Is it obvious that I couldn't handle PC controls? For reference on how easy these puzzles are, this one started in the correct position. Why the hell is it so hard on controller? This game came out in 2009! And here it is. I hadn't struggled defeating one of these guys before now, but this is when I found a problem and an unexpected consequence of the rules. See, I hadn't been hit by one of them before. These guys don't attack traditionally. They grapple. Once they're on you, that's it. The only way to push them off is, well, push them off. Anytime I get hit by any of these enemies means an automatic reload to the last checkpoint. Just like that, they became the hardest enemy type to handle in the game. But it's not like they're plentiful and faster than my running speed. Right? I pretty quickly get grabbed again. I managed to get past the singular enemy, but then... I spent 6 minutes and 7 seconds on this one broken puzzle because I really didn't want to try to fight these guys with keyboard and mouse. But that was how long it took before I gave up and switched over. It took 6 seconds once I swapped. And yes, I am still salty. Afterwards begins the Harley... fight? Basically, we jump between the floors before they zap us. They hurt the enemies, though, so... if we can get them to stay on the platforms, it does our job for us. Otherwise, it's just an ordinary fight. In some ways, it's honestly easier than normal combat at the moment. An electric floor and rails to pull enemies over, knocking them out instantly? Sign me up. After no real effort is given, we throw her into a cell with bars so far apart they'd have to try not to get through them. I cape again because I'll understand keyboard and mouse controls when I'm dead. I have the most terrifying near miss of the playthrough. Poor guy almost got me. Good thing I managed to slip by. Fuck! Shit! Son of a bitch! No, please. Come on, just let me through! We make our way to the next area on what was definitely the first try before reaching another sequencer. Which only took 40 seconds of twiddling my thumbs, but who's counting?
Let him go now!
Really? Okay, if you say so, then. Whoopsie! No!
We fall victim for one of the classic blunders. Saving a guy, we're faced with an upgrade to the sequencer puzzles. We have about 20 seconds to solve this one before it boots us out. And yes, I'm still salty. I'm forced back to keyboard and hell controls, where I use them to throw multiple inmates to their death. Seriously, how are they surviving this? Best case scenario, the inmates have killed most of the medical staff, and I don't see how the hell they're getting back up. Come to think of it, the amount of concussions caused by the explosions likely means a lot of patients aren't going to survive tonight. Carrying on, it's another mandatory stealth section. It's pretty much the same setup as last time, and true to the last time, we only actually have to worry about the last guy in the chain. Take him out and carry on to where we meet our first real Titan fight. These guys talk tough, and they look tough. They're no Bane. See, there's one key difference. While they have the same moveset, they're much easier to damage with gadgets, and importantly, they can't heal. When they don't have any health left in their bars, a single blast from ye olde gel will put them down for good. I mean, knock them out. Because Batman, of course, doesn't kill people. Realizing how much easier this all is, I throw my cape around and restart a fight that's been going on for almost 3 minutes by this point. After they finally go down, I spend another 50 seconds on a sequencer before throwing in the towel. Sure, it wasn't as long, but if it's not obvious, I was really quickly losing my patience on puzzles that don't work! We find out that ignoring Poison Ivy earlier was a bad idea, and that her influence is spreading quickly through the whole island. They start booby-trapping the gargoyles to make stealth harder, but by this point I've got my strategy locked in. If there's a ledge nearby, throwing enemies over it is a KO, so why waste time with stealth when I can go in rope slinging? Otherwise, blasts tend to be the way to go. In this case, it was an electric gate, though. Again, I find it interesting how many of the game's mechanics can be ignored in favor of my utility belt. We get what I honestly thought was the game crashing again for a moment. Didn't happen as much during this run, but they happened a lot during my researching of it. Turns out, it's Scarecrow again. Man, when will this guy learn? There's some cool theming going on once more, and playing with things like a fake game over screen were really cool effects, but gameplay-wise, nothing was all that different. A really strong opening led to another simple little platformer with stealth, and some really easy combat capped off by the use of the big light gadget that he just left here for us to use. We then let him inject us with more of the fear toxin. Afterwards, we get the second scariest thing of all. An almost entirely normal combat section, which goes by without any real incident. And we have not one, but 3 big light gadgets to use against him this time. How kind of him to stand directly above their beams. Sure, it's probably more symbolic of a psychological struggle and whatnot, and not really his incompetence, but then we managed to get our hands on the guy, and then what? There are bars between us. Does he really not just carry a gun? Is it part of his villain code that if he doesn't beat us via being spooky, that he doesn't want to beat us at all? Because from there, he just kind of runs off. By now, I switched to using almost exclusively keyboard and mouse, so these sequencers are no longer a weakness of mine. Now my only weakness is everything else. Scarecrow keeps threatening dosage sizes, talking about how dangerous the amounts he's using are on the human mind. But what does that really mean? We've been injected with a crap ton of it and we're doing fine. Can you not overdose on whatever this hallucinogenic drug is? I guess it's too late to ask him, because he got attacked by a murderous shoe. I head into Croc's lair to find a cure for the Titan drug, because the hospital thought it was a good idea to give an inmate his own lair. Inside, I completely ignored the stealth tutorial the game was trying to give me and died. Carrying on, I was confused by the amount of platforms through here and their application. I understand this whole thing from a gameplay standpoint. If you move quickly, you attract Croc and die. You tag him with a batarang and he goes away. But what the hell is any of this for in a realistic sense? It's not like you could get to any of these pipes to maintain them. You can't really do much of anything. The wood is just going to rot away. Why use wood? Is this sewer water? I can't imagine it being anything else, so the wood is just going to soak up the poo juice. Who designed this place? Did Croc put this wood down here like this? Who gave it to him? Why did he design it this way? If he performs significantly better in water than out, this whole thing is to his detriment. If he has this much wood and things can just kind of fall down here, why hasn't he used it to build a tower and climb out or something? Does he really have anything better to do in the meantime? How does hitting his collar even activate it? How is it not broken? While I do genuinely like this game, I do have to wonder if I've spent more time pondering these questions than the devs did making this section of the game. Without much more fuss, we make our way out and head toward the Batcave while Poison Ivy breaks more things with the power of Titan flowing through her veins and also plants. We make a cure because this man could cure cancer, but instead devotes his time to punching underprivileged people to death. After which, we pick up an upgrade for our Batclaw that we've been using the whole run, that we could have picked up the last time we were here, Bruce! What the fucking fuck?
Got another problem.
While the gel knocks out a lot of our foes, I honestly wouldn't have enough time to use it if it weren't for this claw upgrade knocking them all down for me. Truly, the unsung hero of the run, and almost every fight up until this point. We find out that the water here is being spiked with Titan byproduct that will be going straight into the river that flows through the city, because of course it is. How the hell has this been going on for so long? The security in this place is agonizingly bad for a place holding some of the most dangerous criminals in Gotham.
You want some of this?
We gave an inmate some of this. We're required to hack these terminals to stop the water pumps and save Gotham, but the fight is totally optional, so meh. What are they gonna do? Turn them back on? We then get another Titan fight. It comes with a lot of random dudes, which I guess complicates things, but it's just another Bane wannabe. I'm so unimpressed by the fight that I use a key that isn't bound to anything to throw a cape that I couldn't throw to force a restart of the fight. I find out the Poison Ivy is in the exact same place that she was the last time I saw her, so the fact that I completely wrote her off is once again another strikingly bad decision for Batman. We find some guards that have been hypnotized by her, which we can just ignore. It was so easy to get past them that I literally stopped to check and make sure I was still going the right way. What was the point of those guys? Ivy, of course, becomes a boss fight that features plants. Who would have guessed? The whole thing consists of mostly just dodging and throwing batarangs. You do more damage when her guard is open. Why she opens it, I have no idea. But if she catches me with a grapple, then I have no way out, and that's a reset. So I tried to end the fight as quickly as I could. The second phase has her throwing hypnotized guards at you, but they really don't do much to change the fight. You get a checkpoint at the start of phase 2. For some reason, the boss that was designed to be fought with only the use of gadgets wasn't particularly game-changing here. After a couple of resets from being grabbed, Ivy goes down. We get got before then blowing up a lot of people repeatedly, and then following Joker into a taste of my own medicine. There's a little blue in here now. I'll be fine. I'll be fine! Okay, don't worry about it. We then get another Titan fight, because if it didn't work the first few times, why wouldn't it work now? And before someone says it, no, the definition of insanity is not doing the same thing repeatedly and expecting different results. No credible psychologist in the world would tell you that it is. That's not even how definitions work. If anything, that could be an example of insanity, but that's not a usable definition. If someone won the lottery and played again expecting to lose, most people would assume they're expecting correctly, even though they're doing the same thing and expecting a different result. Alternatively, a person who fully believes that the walls are listening to them and plotting with their neighbors to invade their home with a group of bees in SWAT gear to get the secret to their brownie recipe that they haven't written yet in an effort to quell the Great Salt and Pepper riots of the year 34,628 on the planet Jeffrey in the Bubbles system is totally sane by that definition because they aren't repeating themselves? How the hell does that make any sense? Anyway, the fight's over. Commissioner Gordon is apparently back on the island, the Joker has injected himself and Batman with Titan. Also, the game decided to skip the whole cutscene leading to this arena. I got soft-locked here because I can't do anything. I got to test out the gadgets, and I have more bad news. I reset so the fight could commence for real, hoping that maybe his hitboxes just weren't active, but the fight works in phases of normal fights with normal guys. The electric gates make this a cakewalk. There are some walking explosives that are hardly worth mentioning, but that's all that's really different. Between waves, you can pull Joker down, and you're supposed to punch him while he can't defend himself. I tried everything I could think of, but it didn't seem like it was doing anything. I tried hitting him a couple of times to push things forward before resetting, and it confirmed it. His health was full before I punched him. He's immune to damaging gadgets in this fight. So, to answer the question, once and for all, no. You can't beat Batman Arkham Asylum with gadgets only. Even by rich kid rules. But what if we decided to answer a different question instead? In New Game Minus rules, what is the minimum number of times you have to hit an enemy to beat the game? You just take the Bane fight and the Joker fight and add them together, right? Wrong, sucker, you got played! Or you got it right, in which case, good job, I guess. You're 2 steps ahead of a pre-recorded line. I don't really know what you want from me. We've been playing wrong this whole time, sort of intentionally so. Code of ethics, if you will. Sure, I had tools that I shouldn't, but up until this point, I've shied away from sequence breaking. It didn't seem fair, but like I said before, rich kids don't play fair. See, speedrunning this game got a whole lot more interesting with just a couple of facts. See, the last room that has Joker before the big boom, you can get to that anytime after you escape the first area of the game. Furthermore, you can use the rope launcher to go right through the glass, but you can't use gadgets in the room under normal conditions. Finally, you have control over Batman in the final moments after going through doors. It's only a moment, hardly enough time to do anything, but it is enough time to throw a batarang. The game has an action cam that you can use with most gadgets to get a neat looking shot kind of thing. Hardly useful. Unless using it the moment before the game fades out was to bug the camera, allowing you to break the cinematic cam in the visitor center. That's right! We can restart the game to skip straight from our initial escape to fighting Joker's last 2 Titans, and then the Joker himself. To change phases, we only need to throw 3 strikes, despite what the counter says. We only need to do this twice before Batman delivers the final blow with what's clearly a use of the gadget and therefore doesn't count. And that's it. 6 strikes for a game complete on an enemy that can't fight back. 6 strikes is all it takes to be a hero. It's not quite as clean as I'd hoped, but I feel good about his chances of being able to hit a guy that can't move. What say you, Brian? Are you ready to be a hero? How are you, anyways? Oh, well, fuck. Shit. Fuck. Well, Scarecrow's alive, I guess, so that's the thing. But anyway, if you enjoyed this at all, please feel free to let me know. I'd love to hear your feedback. And I'd love to have you come along on any future outings. Until then, remember to stay safe, spread some kindness in the world, and I hope that you have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Can I give you a ride?
Thanks, Jim, but I have one on the way.
Get some rest. You deserve it.
Stay safe, Jim.
2 officers down. The suspect is fleeing in their patrol car.